You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. I'm your host, Shamaya Reed, and we have an amazing guest. We have Kim Cameron, and she's going to represent her band, Side FX. And what's amazing about her is they've been in the game for a while. 2-time top 20 Billboard chart-topping deep house sound with placements on Billboard Dance Club, Hot AC, CMJ, AAA, DJ Times, so forth and so forth. So I want to welcome Ms. Kim to the show on I Am Refocused Radio. And first of all, say, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
And what's amazing about this show, we get so much amazing stories. So from the jump, let's tell the audience first a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a singer, songwriter. I do a little bit of voiceover here and there. I do a little bit of acting here and there. And I'm also a filmmaker. So kind of a well-rounded arts and entertainment person.
Yeah, your resume is very impressive. I was checking out not too long ago. And website, by the way, those who are listening right here on I'm Refocused Radio, you can go to sidefxmusic.com. And like she just said, she is also a filmmaker and top 20 Billboard artist. So tell us a little bit about how you got into just music and entertainment business.
Well, I've been in music, I want to say, all my life, but I didn't start the original project until 2008. So, I started out playing the clarinet when I was in second grade, and I did all sorts of things from orchestra to marching band and then musical theater. And then I was in some really bad cover bands all through high school and college. And in 2008, I had a kind of an epiphany moment. It was a family member was diagnosed with cancer and was going in for pretty major surgery. And it propelled me to write my first original song. And after I was done, I thought, wow, it's really rewarding. And I was talking to, at the time, my cover band guitar player. And he said, yeah, we should do something with this. And I said, well, why don't we go record it? I'd never been into a recording studio. I had no idea what I was doing. I kind of just picked up the phone, said, oh, can I rent some studio time? And we went in there, and I took the rest of my cover band at the time and kind of put something haphazardly together. And I was like, this is super fun and cool. And the engineer at the time, he said, Kim, I think you have something. He says, I think, though, you need a producer, and I have a recommendation for you. So he gave me this guy, and I called him up, and we hit it off immediately. And next thing I know I decided to record a full album. So I took really the majority of 2008 to record my first studio album. And at that point, I was so hooked on the whole process, the original writing aspect, the recording process. I just said, okay, it's time for me to leave my day job and do this full time. And I did. So it was, a little bit of a jump in the sand pit, but it was still the best decision I could have made.
Definitely was the best decision because, with your success, you performed twice for, NFL Giants and Redskins. You've done stuff with Marlins Baseball and, National League Baseball. So when you have that kind of success and you tour across the U.S. and Caribbean and in Europe and China, so for that kind of success, how did that feel when you started to see your hard work pay off on that level?
It's a fantastic feeling. And, I'm not any different than any other musicians that works super, super hard. And a lot of times you can work really hard and you feel like you're not gaining any momentum. The music business is a very, very tough business. And there is an enormous amount of competition. You're competing on so many levels. You're not just competing for slots, but you're competing, also against price points, right? So a lot of places, they've got money for a band, but, their money for the band kind of pays for 3 people, but they really want the sound of 8 people, right? So, so you compete on a financial standpoint, you compete against locals, especially if you're touring. Why do they want a touring band when they've got locals who are going to bring, 20 of their cousins over to the show and they don't really have to advertise? It's a tough proposition in the music industry. And the same is true just on the creative side. So you record and oh, this is really great. I've got this great album. I've 600 songs that I've recorded at this point. And what you find is tastes are so wildly different. And what one person thinks is a great song, another person doesn't think is a great song. And so you can't win them all. And that's the great thing about music, is everyone has their own idea of what a great song is, what a great hook is, what a great memorable line that is. And there's no way for you to predict that or pretend that you'll ever figure it out, because I don't think you can. So you're always competing on that level too. And a lot of people, before we had the opportunity to do a lot of in-home recording, studio was the only place that you'd really get a really solid recording that was something that the radio would play. I mean, you needed that, really quiet, soundproofed kind of atmosphere. And it's only, I would say, in the last 5-6 years that people said, well, I don't want to pay for a studio anymore. It's like super expensive and I want to keep recording. So that's helped out. But then, once you get the song done, you got to promote it. And that typically takes money to do so. So it's, it's a tough world. And it requires you to decide to what level do you want to take it to, and, how hard do you want to push it? Finding the right people that'll help you push it. I mean, my 2 times that I was able to sing national anthem to the National Football League, and even to the Marlins, I had this guy, one of my booking agents, and he just understood sports people. He understood how to talk to the sports people. He understood how to pitch to them. And he was very tenacious, and he was going to do it, and he did it. And, but, there are other people that there's no way it's a totally different, way to book somebody in a venue than it is to book somebody at the National, Football League. And it's just knowing and finding the right people to do the right things at the right time.
And once again, if you're just now tuning in, we are talking to the one and only Kim Cameron, top 20 Billboard artist and also a filmmaker. You can hear her music everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Stores all around the globe, and radio and TV. And once again, you hear right here exclusively on I Am Refocused Radio. You have so much things that we can unpack, because you have won numerous awards. You also have music that is in the New York screenplay, Her Story. And what is the process like as a creative when you are trying to network in the industry, not just in the music, but also in the entertainment business?
And the key is exactly what you said, network. And I think a lot of us, I started out, I'd ask a lot of questions and try to meet people, but I really didn't understand that really the key to success is meeting people face to face, network. And I didn't appreciate, I spent so much time trying to build a fan base, which I'm not saying isn't important. It is important, but equally as important is trying to understand who's in the industry that can really help propel your career. And I didn't spend enough time at the beginning. I made it harder on myself by not navigating to the right people. One of the things one of my friends had said, there's a conference you should really go to called Meet 'em. which is something that's based out of France. And she kept saying, you really should go, really should go. And I looked it up and said, well, I don't want to go. It's expensive. I have to fly to France, all those kinds of things. Plus, when I get over there, I'm not really good at just, charging myself out there. And it took me about 3 years. And then I figured out that, I just got to do it. She keeps saying I should go. I went, and those connections are what really propelled me into all my international travel. So had I not gone and met those people and those connections, I wouldn't have been able to tour all the places I've toured in Europe. I wouldn't have gone to China and, had those kinds of experiences. But it does force you to take a leap of faith in yourself that you can go to these places, and then you got to force yourself to go, meet the individuals and see where it leads you. And a lot of these things don't happen overnight, but they're connections you make, and then you got to follow up. And I mean, it takes time and it takes effort, but for me, which I don't consider myself a shy person, but I'm not also the person that's going to just put myself right in the middle of a lot of strangers and start talking to people. That's just not where my comfort zone is. So I really had to do that and get out of my comfort zone to make that happen.
And with your success, I mean, it's still going. I mean, we recently had one in January. Tell us about that, All Love.
Well, so I have, COVID sort of put things in a different world, but I've decided to, book as much as I can. I have a lot of tentative dates, but I am nervous. A lot of them will get canceled because of, countries not opening up. One of them is actually China. And then France is another one. Again, we'll have to see if it actually can happen. But we did kick it off here in Miami. So that was nice. That was my first, full length show that I've done since COVID. I mean, I've done a few, here and there kind of acoustic things around town, but it really felt good to do a full on show again. The longer you wait to do that, you kind of say, wow, do I still have the chops to get up there? And can I do a clean show for 40 minutes, 50 minutes and still sound as good as when I was touring on a regular basis? A year is a long time, but we did it. I felt really good about it. And we had a great crowd. It was outside, so it was super safe. But we had a good 200 folks out there, and which is it was a nice size. Everybody was spread out, but it was, and it was a large space. So it was full, but it wasn't uncomfortably full, given the sensitivities that's going on these days. But that was nice. It was nice to kick that off.
And once again, you listen to I Am Refocus Radio. We are talking to Kim Cameron, top 20 Billboard artist, filmmaker. And also we're going to dive into side effects, because you go to the website, sidefxmusic.com, but you have members, a part of this team, this band with you. Tell the audience about this band and some of the amazing things that y'all have been able to do all over the map.
So Side Effects is, it was a name that my original long time ago guitar player had. We were batting around ideas. What should we call ourselves? And what I wanted to do was, I was like, well, what I really feel like our sound is what would it sound like what would be the sound effect if you put a couple of genres together that didn't normally fit? Now, in today's world, those kinds of things happen all the time, because people are, mixing jazz and they're mixing rock and they're mixing dance. At the time that I started this in 2008, that wasn't something people did. So that was the impetus of Side Effects, which was, supposed to be what would the sound effect be on you as a listener if you mix things up a little bit. And then my band itself is kind of a collection of amazing musicians from around the globe. So I have a set of guys that I work with when I tour in LA. We've gone all up and down the coast. We even went to the Caribbean together, which was a lot of fun. And then I have a bunch over in Europe, both in Ibiza and in France, in Croatia and the UK. So when I tour over there, those are, again, it's a totally different flavor of musician, but it's, it's a consistency. I've been with these guys for years and years and years. And then here locally, of course, I have some great musicians that I work with. When I went to China, I actually took my musicians from Miami. So that's the one place I haven't ventured to, tap into some local musicians. They haven't quite gotten into dance music there. So I was kind of a first for them. They're right now, very young in the music, meaning that it's only been in the last 10 years that the Chinese government has allowed them to venture out and listen to music that wasn't, dictated by the Communist Party. So they're really into jazz. They're really into rock and roll. And obviously they're into some of the traditional Chinese music. So the dance music is just starting. You can see they're really energized by it, but it's a very new concept for them. So eventually I'd love to be able to meet and acquire some Chinese musicians, because I heard some great musicians while I was over there. But we'd have to get over the language barrier. That would be number one. That's a little bit challenging.
What's cool is you're not just into the music industry, you're doing film. So being able to do both worlds, I can't imagine how you even get to sleep and rest and kind of recoup. But as that kind of creative, what is the process like when you are, because you mentioned the word being consistent, how are you able to maintain that high level of excellence and still not go crazy?
Well, I hope I'm maintaining that high level of excellence. That definitely is the goal. When it comes to filmmaking, my first full-length feature film is coming out. Actually, the premiere is this week, and it will premiere here in Miami. It is an animated feature film. It's 90 minutes strong, so it's a big film. It took 4 years for me to make, because I didn't know really how to make a film of that size and to make an animation film on top of it. So I had numerous challenges. I had been directing and producing my own music videos for a little while, so I had experience doing film. And I've also done, as an actress, been on the other side of the camera on quite a few occasions. But really taking over both the screenwriter, the director, and the producer role was a pretty big undertaking. It wasn't necessarily something I thought I was going to do. I thought I would find somebody who would be the director. But when push came to shove and I started really talking to people, the problem came that I really knew my project. I knew it better than anybody. And so I just, felt at the time that I wasn't sure that a director was going to, by the time I translated what the vision was, I wasn't sure that I gained anything from it. And maybe that was the wrong assumption. We'll find out. But so far, we've gotten about 27 awards for the film. And we've submitted it to quite a few more. So we'll see if it continues to be received well. But it was when you take all three roles on, it makes it easier and harder at the same time. Because I know what I'm doing I know what the story is, and I know what the vision should be. But it's harder because I get so close to it that maybe I'm missing something because I'm so close. And so how do you pull back when you're all three people. So, and it's always, as a writer, I hate editing my own things because I'll read it wrong. You think there's a word there, or you think that there isn't a word there, and it actually is, because you're too familiar with the content. So that's the downside of wearing all those hats at once. But it's been, I used to say that music was my favorite thing, and now I would say that music and film are competing.
To kind of tie it together a little bit, because you're still creative. You still have that creative hat, and you still have that vision, and still our ears, we get to see it now. So in that feature film that you were talking about, the name of that is Superpowers. Is that correct?
Yes, it's part of my whole series. So Superpowers began as just an audiobook that it was written around a little song that I wrote one day on the beach called Mr. Octopus. And my guitar player suggested that I make a story out of it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll write a little story about it. So I wrote a little story, and he said, well, why don't we turn it into an audiobook? And I was like, yeah, why not? I mean, we've never done one before, but we've done songs, so we know how to do it. So we created this fun audiobook. It lasts about an hour long, put it out there, and we got this overwhelming response from all these parents. They loved it. And they said, but you know what? We'd really like it if you could also provide the hard copy version so that my kids could listen and read along. And I had never gotten into book publishing, so that was a completely different animal whatsoever. I did a lot of falling down before I got it right. Doing books on, real books, hardcover books are a completely different world than anything you do musically or even in an audiobook. So that was, I learned some painful lessons, but then I continued on with the series. So now the series is 5 books strong. I morphed into plush toys and a coloring book that is called a forever coloring book that, you draw on with like a dry erase, and then you can erase it and start all over again. We still have the audiobooks for each of the stories, and now we have a film. So it's grown into its own thing.
For the creatives out there who are listening to this, by the way, you listen to I Am Refocused Radio, and we're talking to Kim Cameron, top 20 Billboard artist, filmmaker, and author. Forgot to throw that in there. But you can go to sideeffectsmusic.com to figure out all the amazing stuff that her and her band are doing. But real quick, before we let you go today, there's creatives out there who will hear this episode. What words of wisdom will you give to the young creative minds out there who will hear this and be inspired?
When you have an idea, write it down. Write it down, record it, whatever it is, whether it's a song idea, whether it's a story idea, whether it's a film idea, write it down. And I will tell you, you will go back to those notes and you will treasure them, because ideas are precious. They are gold. And it doesn't have to be a full developed idea. It just could be a couple words, but take those ideas and keep them. Have a book that you have with you all the time. And those ideas you can transform into magical things. But everything starts with just an idea.
And that's the key. I mean, what you just said, ideas, you can't have enough. It's like, it's an ongoing process. And the key word I took from this interview is what you touched on earlier, and that's being consistent. Because consistency, getting up every day, showing up, even when you don't feel like it, ups and downs. No one's perfect. Like I tell people on the show a lot, we see everyone's ESPN top 10 plays, but we don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that they do in practice and the games they lose. It's a process. Everything you're building when you're with your career, it's a process. So for those who might be frustrated, maybe they are in the game, maybe they are in the music industry or the filmmakers or the book authors, what advice would you give to those who just might be, smack down in the middle and they're just frustrated, but they're trying to grow?
I would say I still come back to ideas, because even if you've done some things and you feel like you're not, advancing the way you should be advancing, the entertainment industry is very hard work, and there is some luck to it, without a doubt. There's definitely some luck to it. So even if you work really, really hard and you're still not progressing where you think you should, it's it's just that opportunity hasn't presented itself the way it will. I would say keep coming back to your ideas, and it could be that if you're going zig, maybe you need to do zag with that same idea, and you might have a totally different outcome. Try to look at it completely different, wake up on the different side of the bed, so that it inspires a different, it does, we're like cats, right? We get into the same routine, and every once in a while you need to convince your brain to work a little harder. So do things out of order and see what happens when you look back at that idea or that song or that film that you started on, and you may go a different direction, and it may be amazingly different, and the outcome may be amazingly different.
Well, once again, it's been an honor for I Am Refocused Radio to talk to the one and only Kim Cameron. And what you're doing, appreciate what you are doing for the world. We always say on the show, your life is a blank canvas, but your work is your paint that you leave your mark on history. So thank you for all you're doing for just the whole world to hear and listen to your work. Before we let you go, those listening right now, you can go to sideeffectsmusic.com. Don't forget her new film that's going to be a full-length animated film, Superpowers. You want to check that out. You want to follow her. How can people find you on social media if they want to follow you on social media?
I would direct them to, on my website are all of my social media links at top that they can just click, but probably Instagram is probably the best way to find me these days. So that's Kim Cameron _SideFX. And this has been fantastic.
Well, once again, I Refocus Radio with another exclusive. It's been an honor having you, Miss Kim, on the show. And like we say on every single show, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.